And welcome back to another episode of the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast. Today we're talking about scaling up with Aaron Gibson, and we're going to be asking him lots of questions that you as a small business owner can take and implement and run with so that you can start scaling up and enjoying more of life as well. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So, Aaron, a lot of our small business owner followers like to stay small, or they want to, maintain everything in house. They want to keep that personal context and, the personal touch. So why should they scale up?
I don't think that everybody should, to be perfectly honest. The premise of the question is an interesting one. I kind of look at it from the perspective of what is it that you want to achieve? Is it that you want to grow and become a scalable company, or is it that you want to maintain control and stay very self-efficient and not need any external input of capital or input of skills, if you will? So the way that I phrase it is understand what it is that you want to accomplish, and then alongside that, what is the pain threshold that you're willing to go to? And I don't mean pain from a physical sense. I mean from a very much from a mental strain. And it's really difficult to do that. You need to really get into the mind of the complexity that you're going up against if you're scaling, and the difficulty that you're going to have, because there's plenty of founder books out there, there's plenty of scaling books out there that say how difficult it is and how people have felt that relief afterwards. But you need to be aware of it before you start the scaling process. At the very least, you have to be aware of it.
Is scaling only possible if you have money, Aaron?
So I will take myself as an example here. Is no is the answer. So I come from a very working class background, and I'm not going to say that you can emulate and everybody can follow a roadmap similar to mine, but I've been incredibly efficient with any capital that I've had, and the best investment that I always consider is the one you get from your customers, and finding that verifiable gap in the market that you're looking to address, and address it well, and getting that verification does allow you to ultimately self-fund. Now, again, it always depends on the type of business. There are very deep tech companies that do require external capital. But I think the trap that people tend to get stuck in is they build something, they get like a website or an initial beta version of their product, and then immediately start looking for somebody to buy in. And you don't tend to have to do that, especially in the world that we live in now. You can very much user test very quickly. So it's a yes and a no answer, and I hate to be wishy-washy with it, but it's a difficult one to answer.
It depends, as a lot of marketing answers are. Now, when we talk scaling, a lot of people think that will require lots more feet on the ground, lots more bodies in the office, lots more, people in general. Is that always the case?
I would say definitely not. I've always been very confused by, you think of the behemoths in the world that you ultimately think of, or that you think of the obvious companies that have scaled. You think of the Facebooks, the Google. I don't understand why they have tens of thousands of employees. I never really have. There's obviously a reason, but it's just one that I don't understand, or I'm not privy to the reasoning behind it.
Tax break
for me.
Didn't say that.
For me, it's scaling, but scaling efficiently. A lot of companies tend to do this, where they will bring in outside capital. They'll go and hire 100 people. 6 months later, they will figure out that they didn't need 100 people. And then they effectively either have to go out and raise more capital to keep the 100 people, or they have to reduce their workforce. All of those are bad situations to be in. Sorry, guys. Can you guys still hear me and see me?
Yep.
Perfect. None of those are good positions to be in. So how I tend to look at scaling is, having a great foundational team, whether that is just yourself or the 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 30, whatever your team size is, looking at the gaps that you think you have, solving for the ones that you think you have first, and then off the back of that, hopefully by bringing those new gap fillers in, you'll figure out the other gaps that you have, and scaling in that way allows you to be a lot more efficient rather than just going out and doing a mass hiring campaign. Because even if you take that into consideration, if you're hiring 10 people, how much are you really going through a good process to hire those 10 people? Are you really kicking the tires? Or are you actually taking it for a test drive? And are you really getting into where their skill set is, how good they're going to be as somebody that's going to add value to the team? Or are you just doing a once over and saying, "Yep, we need to hire people, so we're just bringing in as many people as we can"?
Do you know, I respect that opinion, actually. I see that as a very good answer to quite a tricky question. But the concern I have is certainly of people of my generation, and possibly the young ones here as well, is that we prefer to speak to people rather than AI these days. I don't know, at the time of recording, there is a lot of Facebook accounts that are being locked out due to the AI. And there's no way of getting it back because we're dealing with AI. I personally hate contact forms on websites. Hate them with a passion. I'd much rather speak to someone. I took my car in to be cleaned today, and I was assured the day before when I booked that there was going to be multiple people there. There was one person there who didn't really understand what I wanted from him.
Yep.
So people connect and relate with other people. And I do understand that, you know, it's worrying employing people and then having to let them go. But I worked for a startup before. I saw people all around me being let go. You know, we know it happens. So do you
and not
think
just in startups?
No, absolutely
it happens
not.
in established businesses as well, you know.
So as useful as AI is, I still don't think it takes the place of people, or do younger people than this young one here, who don't like making phone calls these days, because I know that for a fact. I have teenagers, so you know, are they happy to talk all day to AI?
I think it's definitely, we live in a very interesting time, and I can I don't want to make any predictions because I don't want to have egg in my face, but I'm going to make a prediction that the pendulum swings back and forth, and everybody goes all in on one thing without realizing that there's a way to straddle both sides. There's a way to have a human face and optimize that human face using AI in the background to allow that human face to be more of a human face. So if I'm going to do a plug here for Rory Sutherland, who we're doing a roundtable with
Rory.
in London later this month. One of his analogies is that if you're just a financial person, this is the doorman at the hotel. If you're familiar with it, his analogy of, if you're a CFO and you own a hotel group, you're going to look at the cost of a doorman versus the cost of automated doors, and you're going to not think about the fact that humans inherently feel safer whenever they see a doorman. They inherently, doorman's doing other things, such as they're picking up litter, they're brushing the sidewalk, they are ensuring that there aren't people that could cause you harm around the hotel. So that element of things that people don't think about, they just think about the automation and how they can save capital, is ultimately doing them harm as a business. Now, I'm not saying that there's any way for a doorman to use AI to do his job more effectively. Perhaps there is. Perhaps there's some sort of AI augmented reality pavement company out there. I wouldn't be shocked if there was. But taking it back to the analogy of being able to give the humans within an organization time back using the AI that exists around us. And I don't think that we should go against the grain of just saying no, we're against this. It's very much the owning all of the horses in New York, and the next day that Henry Ford just delivers the first Ford car. The following day, you're a bankrupt guy that owns a lot of horses. I think that there is that line that can be straddled, if I'm perfectly honest.
Okay.
Brilliant. Yeah, I like that, because we do crave the human interaction and connection. And
I think the interesting sorry to jump in there, Esther. The interesting thing there is sort of now it's obviously not AI, but automation is kind of what is causing a lot of the changes within corporate structures. If we look at one that somebody would interact with on a daily basis, a supermarket having self-checkouts, there are plenty of news stories of supermarkets actually reducing the number of self-checkouts that they have, whether it's because of stock theft and the likes of that, but also people, a reduction in footfall because people actually do want to have that human connection. So to your point, Melanie, around that, I'm shocked that people want to stand in a queue to be served in a supermarket. I always did not, but it just speaks to your point of people do still want that human connection.
And it's interesting because you are younger than both of us by the looks of it. So I mean, you could be older and you just look amazing, but I've never known any different. I've always queued for everything, and so expectations have changed with the next generation. And my kids will never know a life without AI or automation ever.
Yeah.
So their concentration is so much shorter, and they need to be entertained so much more. So we have to be flexible, I suppose, because our audience could be a wide range, young and old. These shops get young people and middle-aged people like us.
But I think too, we need to keep the balance. So, culture is changing, the world around us is changing, but like Aaron said, everything comes back. It's pendular. Like vinyl records are coming back into fashion after being out for so long, because
who would have thought that the mullet would have made a resurgence? But here we are.
No, thank you. Some things just shouldn't come back in. But
Amen.
That human touch, that human connection is what really keeps us going. And we noticed that during COVID, that a lot of people started getting depressed more and because they had to isolate and everything. So keeping that human connection is important. But some businesses can't afford to not use AI. Like they need to be using
or
the
automation
AI,
as well,
or automations as well, and connecting different software and things like that, so that they can keep up with the big giants that have the millions and billions of dollars, staying relevant without burning out. Because let's face it, when we're all founders in this room right now, we can face burnout very quickly because we're really bad at delegating. We're really bad at giving over responsibilities. We're really bad at, using things that we keep telling other people that they should use. So Aaron, you've told us before you started 2 other businesses before the one that you currently have. What makes you keep coming back and starting businesses, knowing that you'll have to go through the pain of scaling up, or you'll have to go through the pain of letting people go? We haven't even got into the hiring process of how do you know that there's a good candidate? When should you start the hiring process? There's so many other things in there. But why did you start not just one, but 3 different companies?
I think I'll redirect that question to my therapist. So we're currently working through that. Jokes aside, I tend to find that I get bored very quickly. I tend to want to. I need something to be aiming towards now, whether that's building something, whether it's doing something. I'm very much driven in that way. the th- the thing about me, and it's kind of again goes back to your point, Melanie, is I love. I say this as an introvert who actually doesn't love a lot of people, like just the general population. Obviously, I wouldn't love people I don't know, but the people in my team, I am incredibly protective of. I'm incredibly thankful that I get to work with incredible people. I get to see them rise above what their initial skill set was and see them develop throughout and become superstars in what they do. And that is the thing that gives me the most gratification, is seeing these people who came in a role and came up the ranks. And for I'll give you a prime example. Laura Laura came in as as my executive assistant, and she rose through the ranks, went off on maternity leave twice, and is now our COO. So I get to work with
Wow.
those incredible people with those incredible stories that are just builders, which is very rare for be on in the culture of what we have and on these islands. It's very much push people towards stable careers and become a doctor, become a lawyer, get into a
Yeah.
trade. We don't foster the same sort of entrepreneurial spirit that they have across the water in the US, and getting to see people that they they could go and be in a place that they can't have as big of an impact, but they're promised their pay. And obviously, we pay our guys, like that's not what I'm saying, but it's as startups, and I'm sure plenty of the guys that are listening to this will have gone through that. How do I make payroll? And you have to be this kind of again dovetails back into my how much pain are you willing to manage, if you will. How am I going to make payroll? Um, how am I going to ensure that my team is kept safe? And how am I going to be a swan on top, but I'm paddling like anything down below? And I think that that's
Total duck.
the
Total duck.
most important thing.
So, when it comes down to the scalable elements, is it just that you're running out of stock too fast, or your staff are working long hours and they're all feeling burnt out? I mean, is there things that we should be watching out for so that we know when we're ready to scale the business?
So I'll give you the best piece of advice I can. Get a golden retriever and watch them as they go around the office. I've got two golden retrievers, a husky and a samoyed. They're always in the office with me. Boodles, my golden retriever. The other one is like a white golden retriever. Boodles is she's my early warning signal. She will sit beside somebody and I'll be like, I need to have a one-to-one. Outside of being able to get a dog in the workplace, if it's a cafe or somewhere like that, what I tend to look for is not so much look for is I tend to do lots of check-ins. And these don't have to be formal, they don't have to be structured in any way. They can be a simple, how are you getting on, over Slack, over text, or if you're walking past somebody, is there anything that you need? How are you? And what I tend to foster at the beginning of everybody coming in to work in my team is I want them to tell me that I'm wrong, and I want them to tell me. I use less less podcast friendly language, if you will. Of I expect them to tell me to f off, and I expect them to tell me that I'm completely wrong, and that because I know that I don't know everything. If I knew everything, I wouldn't need them, and I need them, and I need them operating at as close to 100% as I can. Now, nobody outside of founders tend to jump out of bed in the morning and say, I can't wait to go into work. If they do, I think they should probably be looking at a
You do
therapist.
that as well, do you?
I do. I don't jump out of bed, but I'm excited for the day. But the signals are there. You just have to look for them. And I think probing and setting up again that format in which people feel like they can tell you something, whether it is personal, professional, because as much as we say leave it at the door, we don't leave it at the door. Everybody brings it in. Like nobody actually leaves it at the door, whether they know it or they don't know it. it's coming in past the door. So
Agreed.
understanding that, setting up, again, you can do it formally. We have water cooler hours at the end of the month where everybody can book time with me and we can discuss anything personal, professional, career progression, whatever it is that they want to discuss. But that's only, you can only do that if you foster a culture of safety
Mm.
around your team.
Yeah. And I would caveat that by, saying if you're a one man band, have a meeting with yourself.
Yeah.
Have these questions, write down the answers, be honest, or join up. Like Melanie and I and another CEO, Hannah, we have little, nights away or afternoons, and we just talk about stuff and we tell each other, about our different businesses and what's happening. And we'll say to each other, I think you need to outsource. I think you need to do this. I think you need to, because you can't be 100% honest whenever
No.
you're looking at it yourself. And,
Yeah, because you're
like
in
you
it.
said, yeah,
Mm.
when you're in it, and you could be walking around the office and go, oh, they're all grand. They all look great. They're fine. But like you say, the dog, and I've got two Labradors, and they would never leave people alone because they want attention.
Yeah.
But
I say this with
got
the
two
caveat that
cats.
Boodles is very, very emotionally intelligent and very like she's just and yeah, it's never failed me. But I will caveat your caveat, Esther, with there is definitely a talking to people like, but I would say in the one man band scenario, do it with a peer to peer, like do it with another CEO.
Yes.
Obviously, you can have these discussions at home with your partner or friends. You're going to get a very much a platitude type answer, and
yes,
I find a lot of the time personally that doesn't help me. Um, if you're going to do that, I always would say go and find somebody that has been or is in a similar line of work or in a similar type of role, because those are the people that can actually understand what you're going through. And that's
yeah,
not to say that or to put anything or to discredit the conversations you might have with your significant other. Obviously, you want to tell them how you're feeling and what you're going through and all of that sort of thing. But it's more, what are you expecting in response? And you're only going to get the stuff that will make you question, think, and give you points of reference from somebody that is also experiencing it.
yes, agreed.
I have one more caveat, seeing as everybody else is doing it. You can also go to the likes of the local enterprise office or whoever supports startups and scale ups from whichever country you're in. There's going to
Yep.
be some service that will be able to you can literally go in and get some mentoring or some support. And speaking on the local enterprise office here in the Republic of Ireland, they are brilliant. So I'm sure it's going to be the same in each of the respective countries that are listening.
For sure.
So other scale up things that we need to be aware of, Aaron. I appreciate your time. I know you've got a fairly hard stop coming up. So is there any sort of scale up tips that you could give our listeners, or is there a handout or anything like that placed on your website that people could learn more?
Yeah. So the one piece of advice that I've mentioned in this already, people hear scale and they immediately think big. They don't think about the path in between, like the how do you get to A and B. They think that the scaling element is go really fast, go really big. That in and of itself is incredibly toxic as a mentality. So I would say more of a growth mentality rather than a scaling mentality is important. So, what are the things that you need to execute on, whether they're strategy, whether it's a marketing campaign to verify something, whether it's a new hire? Do it from a place of this is the process that I'm going to follow, and this is what I'm going to do if I need to reel things back in. Once you go to the 10 and you just double your team size to 20, you can't rein that back in. You've got people's mortgages on your like, you should appreciate the commitment that you have to people. So do it slowly. Obviously, if you see that there is something that you can run really fast at, then do it. But with the caveat of, if it doesn't go the way you go or the way that you want it to go, or you don't have the data to back it up, then you need to take a step back and really think about what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
Brilliant. Aaron, where can people learn more about you, your newest business, and what it is that you offer small business owners and companies out there in the world?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting audience that you guys have. For us, the problem that we solve is very much in that area of I'm a founder, I'm a company, I'm an enterprise, and I've got all of these different data flows that I'm trying to monitor. What we have built at Hurry is we are very focused on delivering you something that gives you value very quickly. Sorry, guys. Gives you value very quickly in a very simplistic manner so that you can understand what all of your strands of data are saying, what they're telling you, giving you the understanding of how each piece of your data stack, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's Instagram, whether it's your mailing list, all of those separate but important pieces of data and data flows, we give you the ability to understand it in one place, give you a single source of truth, and then ultimately give you insights into what you should do next. So giving you the next steps based on that data and what it's telling us. Again, in a simplistic way. You don't need to be a data scientist. You don't need to be a data analyst. It's a completely plug and play, self-serve, simplistic tool.
Brilliant.
Okay.
I think personally, like, I love looking at data, but knowing then the next step, that's the real, differentiator that you have there, because a lot of time it's like, oh yeah, here's the data, wonderful, run with it and do what?
You're completely right, and that's something that we've been very much focused on, is to a lot of thinking about your data. It's a lot of it is obviously retrospective, looking back at what happened. And you're completely correct, Esther, of what do I do next? Help me figure out what I do next. And that's something that we do incredibly well, with giving you insights into understanding this is what happened historically with your data. Whenever you did this thing, you got this result, and giving you that action plan as you go forward.
Yeah. And what is the name of the website, in case people have lots of different...
Hurry.co, HURRY.co.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time today, Aaron. Thanks for all your nuggets of gold and all your tips and advice. And we wish you all the best with this company. And,
however long it lasts. I mean, you might be swanning off doing another one in a couple of years' time.
Keep scaling, keep growing. And we hope you guys listening along got a lot of good information from that as well. Do go and check out hurry.co and let us know how you get on. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.